If you think the movie version is a better adaptation, you're just wrong.
And maybe you don't like it at all because you don't like the books. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim. This is Zach. We're Fantasy for the Ages, and we're here to talk to you about the Percy Jackson and the Olympians new adaptation. Zach, when did this come out? It's really new, right?
It came out mid to late December.
Oh, that's
Started with
really
just a
new.
little, and then has been doing a couple of like an episode per week kind of thing, as a lot of these streaming shows have been doing. As we are recording this, we've seen the penultimate episode of the season. We've got one more
Ooh.
coming this week, so we're right in that moment of like, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna do? What are they gonna change?
All right. Now, let me be fair. When I said I don't like the books, that's not really true. They just don't for me. They're
I mean,
just
have you ever
they're
read
okay.
them?
I've read the first one. It
Okay,
was
I was like, how can you say you don't like them if you haven't actually tried them?
well, again, I read the first one, and there was nothing in it that was enough to make me want to read more. It just wasn't really. I'm not the target audience. I didn't think it
No,
was
you're way too
okay.
old.
Exactly. I mean, thanks for saying that so strongly,
Yeah.
but you definitely liked them, and when you read them, you were the target
I
audience
was
for
like
sure.
third, fourth grade,
And
something
then we
like
went
that.
and saw the movie, or
Yeah.
we watched it at home. I don't know if we
No, we went and
went.
saw the first in
Did we
theaters.
go?
I
Okay.
was very excited. I wanted to go. I think we even took a friend.
And I remember even after we watched it right away, you were a little disappointed.
Yeah, there has been one thing that disappointed me more as an adaptation, and it's Aragon, because that we're not touching that one right now. Um,
Even with Jeremy Irons, he couldn't save it.
don't get me wrong, he's great. Movie's not. Horrible adaptation. But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, no. Have they fixed the flaws of the past by trying a new adaptation of Percy Jackson and the Olympians?
In short, yes. However, I'm not going to stand here on my soapbox and tell you this is the most perfect adaptation in the world, the best show,
No, no, because that's the
any
Wheel
of
of
those
Time that's
things.
already there.
I'm not going to stand on any soapboxes at all today. Well, in this episode. But what I will say is that I think this is a very successful adaptation. I think it is giving us what we want as readers who love the books, and for the most part, getting a pretty faithful retelling. Some things are different here and there, some things are changed a little, but it's really, really nice to have seen the author so directly involved with the work, which was one of the biggest problems when Percy Jackson was tried to be made into a movie. He really wasn't. He wanted
Someone
to
bought the
be,
rights and then
and
did
he
their own thing.
wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can tell partially from little Easter eggs and things. And if you pay attention with people who love these books and other content creators in this space, you'll see some of these highlighted, and it's things that you'll probably miss, especially if you don't love the books. But if you're a diehard fan and you're sitting there for it, and you're just waiting for that one crowded scene where someone in the background shouts someone else's name and you're like, it's that person, then cool, it's there for you. And that's one of the great joys of having an adaptation like this.
Some people get irritated at adaptations that they feel are just taking the book straight from the page and putting it to the screen. They want something fresh. They want to be surprised. Is that sort of person going to be irritated at this adaptation?
Maybe a little. There are some things that are clearly different. Some of the tone of how certain encounters go has a bit more humanizing effect on certain characters or monsters. And sometimes there are moments where we're all left sitting, hey, that's not how it was in the book. And then every Percy Jackson fan immediately runs to their library, grabs the book, and double checks. Yeah, no, that's the wrong number of things. Rick, what are you doing?
But so far, those sorts of changes have been small enough. They haven't had you throwing the book at the screen in frustration.
No, they haven't detracted from the show, and in some cases, they have really added to it.
Nice,
There
nice.
are some certain situations where it's not exactly a change so much as it's not as heavily implied. in the show as it is in the books. One of the most notable being right at the beginning, just the relationship between Percy's mom and his stepdad and how things look there aren't as ugly as they are in the books. And you
Ah,
really hate the stepdad. And he's just kind of lame in the show. And I think that's okay, but it also felt like it was lacking.
you wanted to hate him more.
A little bit, a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
Mostly so
So
I don't feel bad later, maybe.
last thing I want to know, should I be watching this? Do you think it's good enough that actually I would enjoy it, your mother and I?
I really enjoy it. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I think mom would probably enjoy it. I don't know if you would. And the biggest reason that I don't know if you would come into what I see being talked about as the flaws with the show and what I can admit are some flaws, especially depending on your audience. One of the biggest I've heard talked about is the pacing of the show, that it feels too fast, too rushed.
Mm.
When you really think about it and go, no, this is like a 300-page book being adapted to 8 episodes, and most of the encounters with various things are like 3 or 4 pages long. Like, no, it feels appropriate. It's what is actually honest to the material. We're still getting through it, but there is something to be said of if you don't already know what's going on, you might be getting a little bit lost just because they go through things so quickly.
Sounds like you're saying this is an adaptation truly written for those who love the books.
Yes, I think you can enjoy it without that. And there have been some humorous bad takes people have had loving or hating certain characters incorrectly because they don't know what's coming. But it is a fair criticism to say maybe you're not getting into it because it's just not catering to you well enough. It's not taking you by the hand and slowly guiding you into this world. I, for one, get really frustrated when the pacing is too slow in a show. And so I have the opposite opinion usually, and I prefer this.
Okay.
But I can see where some people would think it's too fast.
All right. Well, I'm glad it's working for you. And those of you who are watching, if you have already watched Percy Jackson and the Olympians on here, give us your thoughts. Put it down in the comments if you agree with Zach or disagree. If you haven't watched them, maybe you'll give it a try now. Or maybe you'll just be a old fuddy-duddy like me and say it's not for you. I don't know. Whether you like it or not, we hope you'll like this episode and hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and look in the show notes for other ways that you can interact with Zach and I. We'll also, as always, like to give a shout out to our patrons on Patreon. We'll throw the little graphic up right in the middle here. These are our supporters. Thank you so much for your extra support every month, helping us be able to afford bringing this all to you. All right, that's all we got, right, Zach?
Yeah, that's all for now.
All right, we'll talk to you next time.